So hello everyone, today we will be discussing the revised syllabus of social science for class 10th. Okay, so first let us see that the code for this subject is 087. First, let us see the course structure. Okay, so we got India and the Contemporary World Part 2. The Part 1 has already been done in class 9th. This comes for 20 marks. And if we see the Contemporary India 2, that is a geography, that comes for 20 marks. And if we see Democratic Politics Part 2, that is your pol science, that comes for 20 marks. And at last we have the understanding economic development, that is the economics, and that too come for 20 marks. So a total we have a paper of 80 marks, and that would be assessed in the boards. But now let us see what all is coming in board examination. So first we will be covering up India and the contemporary world, that is your history. And in that we would be first seeing the section 1, that will be events and processes. So the first chapter that we have out here is the rise of nationalism in Europe. Okay, and now we have the topic that is covered in here is the French Revolution and the idea of the nation, the making of nationalism in Europe, the age of revolution, that is from 1813 to 1848, the making of Germany and Italy, visualizing the nation, and at last nationalism and imperialism. Okay, so these are all the topics that you need to cover in chapter 1 under section 1. Now let's see for chapter 2, that is nationalism in India. So the topic that we are going to cover in this one is the First World War, Khilafat and non-corporation, differing strands within the movement towards civil disobedience, the sense of collective belonging. Okay, so these all are the topics that are coming in the chapter 2, that is your nationalism in India. Moving on, we see that we got section 2, okay, that is livelihoods, economies and societies. But there is a note out here that any one theme, okay, let me underline that, any one theme of the following, the given theme selected should be assessed in the periodic tests only and will not be evaluated in the board examination. Okay, so the chapters that we are gonna see out here, that is chapter 3 and 4, but basically there are chapter 4 and 5 in your history book. So let me just correct that one. It's your 4 and there you go. It's 5. Okay, so any one of these two chapters would be assessed in your periodic tests only and will not be evaluated in board examination. So these both chapters are not coming in both, but they obviously will be assessed by your teachers. So let's see what all topics are we going to cover in this. So in the making of the global world, we have the pre-modern world, the 19th century, that is from 1850 to 1914, the interwar economy, rebuilding a world economy, the post-war era. So these are all the topics. Now let's see the topics of the age of industrialization chapter, before the industrial revolution, hand labor and steam power, industrialization in the colonies, factories come up, the peculiarities in industrial growth, and the last, markets for goods. So these all topics are coming in chapter 5. So now let's see contemporary India, that's your geography. Okay, so these are basically the 34 periods that are required in school to finish up it. And first, now see the first chapter, that is your resources and development. The topics that we're going to cover out here is types of resources, development of resources, resource planning in India, land resources, land utilization, land use pattern in India, land degradation and conservation measures, and at last we have soil as a resource. So these all topics would be assessed under the chapter resources and development. Okay, and we have classification of soil, soil erosion and soil conservation. Okay, so these all are the topics that are gonna assist under the chapter resources development of geography of class 10th. Okay, so now the next chapter, chapter number 3, water resources. But first let us see the note. The note is the theoretical aspect of this chapter will not be assessed in periodic tests and board examination. Only map items as given in the map list from this chapter will be evaluated in board examination. Okay, so the whole chapter is actually not coming in board examination, as well as it will not be assessed in periodic tests, but the map work that is under this chapter would be assessed. Okay, so you need to work up on the maps in this chapter. So now let's see the next one, that is your agriculture. What topics are we going to cover in this one? Let's see. Types of farming, cropping pattern, major crops, technological and institutional reforms, impact of globalization on agriculture. So these are the topics. Moving on to the fifth chapter. Okay, again we have a note out here. It says the theoretical aspect of this chapter, will not be assessed in periodic tests, will not be, and in board examinations. Only map items as given in map list from this chapter will be evaluated in the board examination. So same as I've said for water resources, only the maps will be assessed and the chapter won't be in periodic tests and board examinations. So moving on, we have manufacturing industries. Under that we cover the topics importance of manufacturing, okay, and then we have contribution of industry to national economy, industrial location, classification of industries, spatial distribution, and then we have industrial pollution and environmental degradation, and at last we have control of environmental degradation. So these are all the topics. Moving on to the seventh one, lifelines of national economy. So the first topic that we are going to cover out here is transport, roadways, railways, pipelines, waterways, airways. Okay, and then we have communication, we got international trade, tourism as a trade. So these are all the topics that are going to be covered in the chapter 7th one, lifelines of national economy. So here we are done with geography. Moving on to democratic politics. So under this we have the first one, that is power sharing, the first chapter. The topics that are going to cover in here is case studies of Belgium and Sri Lanka, why power sharing is desirable, and the last forms of power sharing. Okay, so moving on to the second chapter, we have federalism. First topic, what is federalism? Then we have what make India a federal country, and then we have how is federalism practiced. Last is decentralization in India. So these are all the topics that are gonna cover in the chapter federalism. Moving on to the sixth one, we got political parties, and then we covered that why do we need political parties, how many parties should we have, national political parties, state parties, challenges to political parties, and at last we have how can parties be reformed. So these all topics would be under political parties that are needed to be done by your side and will be assisted. Moving on to the seventh one, outcomes of democracy. So we have how do we assess democracy's outcomes, accountable, responsive and legitimate government, economic growth and development, reduction of inequality and poverty, accommodation of social diversity, dignity and freedom of the citizens. So these all are the topics that are needed to be covered in the chapter outcomes of democracy of the democratic politics. So now moving on to understanding economic development, that is your eco, or you call it economics. So the first chapter that we have out here is development. Let us see what are the topics under it. We got what development promises, different people, different goals. Then we have income and other goals. We got national development, how to compare different countries or states. Then we got income and other criteria, public facilities, sustainability of development. So these all topics will be under the chapter development. Moving on to the second one, that is sectors of the Indian economy. We got sectors of economic activities. Then we have comparing the three sectors. Then we got primary, secondary and tertiary sectors in India. Moving to the fourth one, we got division of sectors as organized and unorganized. And the last one is sectors in terms of ownership, public or private sectors. Moving on to the third one is money and credit. Topics under it are money as a medium of exchange, modern forms of money, loan activities of banks, two different credit situation, terms of credit, formal sector credit in India. And the last one we have is self-help groups for the poor. Okay, moving up to the globalization and the Indian economy, the fourth chapter. We got production across countries, interlinking production across countries, foreign trade and integration of market. What is globalization? Factors that have enabled globalization. We got World Trade Organization, impact of globalization on India, and the struggle of a fair globalization. So, these all topics would come under the chapter globalization and the Indian economy of the unit understanding economic development, that is your eco or economics. So, now let's see what all are recommended for the deletion. So, first let us see in unit 1. We see under section 2 livelihoods, economies and societies. Again, we have a note that any one out of these two chapters. Okay, so if we see that we got a making of global world and the age of industrialization. So out here we see, well, let us see that these are chapter 4 and we got it as chapter 5. Just correct it. So we see out here that the chosen chapters to be assessed in periodic tests and not in board examination. So you need to prepare any one of them. The school will let you know that which one is to be prepared by you, and the chapter that you would prepare and the other one that you won't, both will not be coming in the board examination. Okay, so now let's see for the section 3. We got everyday life, culture and politics. Chapter 5 under this section is that print, culture and modern world is removed, is completely removed. So, okay, and if we see out here that you have contemporary India, so only 2 chapters out of 8 are coming in India and the contemporary world, that is your history. Okay, and now let's move on to unit 2. What all have been deleted? We got chapter forest and wildlife, complete chapter have been deleted. And then we have chapter 3 water resources, complete chapter, but there is a condition, except for map items which will be assessed in the examination. So you need to prepare the maps that are in this chapter, but you may not see the theory part of this chapter. Again, we see chapter number 5, that is mineral and energy resources. We see that complete chapter except the map. So you need to focus up on the map of both the chapters under the contemporary India. So except the map items which will be assessed in the examination. So maps of both the chapters, that are chapter 3 and chapter 5, will be coming in boards. Now let's see for the unit 3, that is the democratic politics part 2. Again, you call it as political science. We see that chapter 3, that is the democracy and diversity, is removed, is completely removed. Okay, so I just put a cross sign out there. And then we have chapter 4, that is gender, religion and caste, that is removed too. You can see out here, complete chapter. And then we see popular struggles and movement, that is the chapter number 5, that is completely removed too. Chapter 8, that is challenges to democracy, is completely removed too. So 4 chapters of unit 3 democratic politics have been removed. And if you ask me that what about unit 4, well, nothing is removed out from there. Just the thing that was removed, the last chapter, chapter number 5, that was the consumer rights, is still not there in the syllabus. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Hope you have got a lot of help from us, and we wish you all the best for your examinations.